Yo, what's going on, guys? It's the Silent Entrepreneur here, and today I'm going to be talking about should you sell on eBay. And let's go ahead and get into the first slide. All right, so the first thing on being like if you're selling eBay is you got to be your own boss, and this can be good or bad, and we'll go over the good first. So first, you got to make your own decisions, and before I like really get into this video, I'm gonna try to do like everything quick because like as you can see, I have a lot of slides, and I don't want this like video, to be like forever. So I'll try to go as quickly as I can and not stay on one topic too long. And then you have flexible hours, and you are growing your company and no one else's. And then you will have more control when you're your own boss, and you will have more motivation to work since you are working on your company and you're not working on you're not building someone else's dream, you're building yours. And we'll talk about the bad now. So everything rests on your shoulders, and from like my experience, this is like a very daunting thing. Just realizing like everything rests on you, and there's no one else like above you that you can tell your problems to. It all like rests on you, and you'll have to work more. So one of the things people say like they will like working for themselves is they don't have to like work as much. Well, that's definitely false. If you're working for yourself, you're going to like be working a lot more, and it's just it doesn't work like that. That you're not gonna be working as much when you're not working for yourself. That's false. And there's a lot more stress added, and you will not get like any insurance or health benefits since you're your own employer. And then you must keep track of all your business finances. And this is gonna be really important, for like tax time because if you're like working for an employer, you don't have to worry about that because they cover all that. But whenever you're the boss, you have to keep track of all that. So just remember that going forward. And we'll go ahead and get into the next slide. So there's a lot of competition, but a lot of items also. And so what do I mean by this? So there are a lot of sellers on eBay, but there are also like tons of items to be found and sold. So for example, like if you go on eBay, you'll just see like tons of sellers. And then, you go into like a thrift store, like there's tons of items and there's really like a lot of money to be made. I've made a lot of money on thrift stores. And then depending on what you're going to sell, you're going to have a hard time trying to find items. So, like, what I would recommend is stay away from clothing and focus on items that have a higher profit margin and have less competition, such as shoes. So, like with clothing, I've noticed like where I live, it like clothing can differ where you live. So let's say like if you live in like New York City and like the thrift stores around you or like boutiques or anything, where you can get items at like there's like really, expensive name brand items that they're not like let's just say like around me, I have like lesser known items and just like items that no one really knows about, and they're just like very cheap. And then when I look them up on eBay, there's tons of sellers, and the profit margins are really low and just high competition on it. And those aren't like the type of items I want. But like I said, if you have clothing and you live in New York, you may have like some of that clothing may be like top dollar items, and you should go for clothing. It really just depends on your market and like where you're from, depending on like what you can sell. But for me, like shoes are great because there's tons of them near me, and they're all like really great brands, and there's just like huge profit margins on them. And then we'll go ahead and get to the next slide. And then this is really important. Do you have time to run an eBay business? And then an eBay business will take a while to get set up. And then you have to remember you have to go thrifting. You'll have to go out there and find the items because they're not just going to come to you. And then you'll possibly have to clean the items you get. And most of the items, and it just depends on what you get, once again. But like if you get shoes, most of the time you have to clean them, make them look good. And clothing are the same thing. Maybe like this shirt will have like a stain or something on it. You'll have to throw in the wash, or maybe it like smells bad or something like that. There's just like a lot of items that will probably have to be cleaned when you get them. And then you have to remember you have to take pictures of the items, which that takes time. And then you have to list the items, which when you're first starting out, you have to remember this. It like with listing an item, an average time I would give it would be about 15 minutes to list one item, so that adds up very quickly. And then you'll have to store the items, which takes a while. And then you'll have to answer customers' questions, and that takes a while too. And then you have to remember that once you do all this, you still have to ship the items to the customers once they buy them. And then, so as you can see, like it takes like a long time to like run an eBay business. So you have to make sure you have that time up front you can put into the business. And then we'll go into the next slide. And then, okay, so this is just a continued. Okay, so if you are working full time or going to school full time, you cannot expect to come home and rest, and that's a huge thing. Like if you're working or going to school or anything, and I know you've already had like a long day and you just want to come home and rest, but if you really want to make like extra money, you just can't do that. You have to put that time in, and then they'll put me into like the next bullet point. You'll need to put at least 2 hours into your eBay business every day. This is really important. You need that time to put in your business to really grow it. And then you will have less time to hang out with with family and friends. And this is definitely the case. I mean, I've been doing eBay for 3 years now, and it definitely is true. You're gonna have less time. But the always here's what I'll say about like hanging out with like family and friends is at the beginning, expect like you're not gonna be able to spend much time with them, and then further down the line you're going to be able to spend a lot more time with them because you'll have your eBay business up and running, and you won't have to put as much time into it than you do at the beginning. And then you may have to go to bed later and wake up earlier. I mean, just know, guys, if you want to make your eBay your full-time job, then you're going to have to spend those extra hours just grinding and pushing through it. And then my next slide is, so this is going to be really important. Do you have space to store your items? Having an eBay business requires you to store your items. And then you absolutely should not do eBay if you plan on keeping items in your house and cannot store them, and your house and the eBay business will become extremely disorganized if you cannot store your items properly. So to add on to this is whenever I first started doing eBay, I like just thought to myself, I was like, well, I'm not gonna get, many items and I'm just gonna grab them and throw in my closet. I mean, it does not like last very long with that. Cause into let's just say like a month doing it, I was already having trouble like trying to find items, and it was just a mess. And if you don't have, like, my last thing says like your house and eBay business will become extremely disorganized. It's true because if you don't have like that set space, you'll be taking items and throwing them in places. Like maybe it'll be like my closet. I had other clothes in there, like my personal clothes, and then it just starts getting a mess, and then you'll end up trying to find different places to store your items where your personal stuff is, and it just doesn't belong like that. You need to have a separate space for your eBay items, because you have to remember this is a business and you need to treat it like a business. Don't just treat it, like something personal. It's a business and you're here to make money, so treat it like a business. And then, do you have enough money to start? So you must have enough capital. So you will have to purchase items and resell. You will have to pay eBay and PayPal fees. So eBay fees right now, they're 10%, like if you don't have a store. And I'll go into having an eBay store later. But if you have like an eBay store, you get lower fees and stuff. And then PayPal fees, it is 2.9% plus 30 cents for each transaction. Excuse me, guys. And then you have to remember this. This will be really important. Not much like people think about this before they start doing eBay. You will need enough like money for gas since you'll be driving back and forth to thrift stores. And one thing, I'll just add like a bonus tip right here. I wasn't going to add this. Make sure you download like an app where it tracks your mileage, because you will really need that when it comes tax time, because that will be a huge write-off. But you have to remember, like whenever you start tracking your mileage, you'll see like you're spending a lot of money in gas. So you need to make sure you have money, since you're going to be traveling a lot going thrifting. And then you'll also have to remember, like not many people talk about this, but here's another thing. You'll have to buy packing materials such as tape, boxes, and bubble wrap. And the thing with boxes is you can buy them on, so if you go to USPS.com, they have like free boxes and that kind of stuff, and you can have it shipped to your house and everything's free with it, free shipping, everything like that. And so I suggest if you're looking for boxes and you don't have any, that you do that. And another thing I'll say is, I'll type it right here so you guys can see. One thing you'll want to look up is, it's called polymer bags, and you'll really want to find those. Like those are really good for putting like shirts in, and even like shoes and everything like that can go in them. But you really want to look at polymer bags. They're not too expensive, and they're just like a great way, to start off with your eBay adventure doing polymer bags. And then bubble wrap, once again, like depending on what you sell, you may or may not need bubble wrap. It all depends on your situation. But just remember, like you probably need bubble wrap if you have, more breakable stuff. But if you do like clothing, you won't need bubble wrap. So like again, it just depends on what you're gonna decide to sell if you'll need bubble wrap or not. And then I recommend like having $100 to start with, just because you'll need items, like I said above, items to resell, and then one else you have to remember is when you have your PayPal account, PayPal, I don't know how long like they hold transactions for, but when you're a new eBay seller, for a certain amount of time, they'll hold like money for like 21 days after you sell that item to make sure like the transaction went okay and you're not trying to scam buyers. So you have to remember when you're starting out that like PayPal will hold like your money. So be aware of that when you're first starting out. And then, so do you have patience? This is a huge thing with eBay. It may take a while to make your first sale. I believe for me, my first sale, it took 2 weeks, which is a long time, when you're just waiting there and you really want to like push ahead in your eBay business just to sit there and wait for your first sale. But you have to remember that it's going to take a while for your first sale, just for the fact that you don't have any feedback built up. You don't have very many items in your store, so not many customers are going to be seeing your items. So it's just going to like getting that basically getting your first 10 feedback is going to be really important for you, because once you start establishing that feedback, then more people will trust you, because when you try and get like that first feedback or like even that first customer, it's so hard to get it just for the fact that no one trusts you, because you don't have any feedback built up. So make sure you build that feedback up really quick so you can start making sales really quick. And then it'll take a while, to get your store built up. Like I was saying, building up your feedback, it takes a while. Like right now, I have about 900 feedback, and that's taken me around like 3 years to get. And I've sold, thousands upon thousands of items. So just it's very hard to get people to leave feedback, but if you can, you really need to do that. And then it will usually take a while to build up your inventory. I mean, sometimes it may not take a whole long time to build up your inventory. It just depends, on how much time you're putting in going thrifting and, all that. So it really just depends on you on like how fast you want to build up your inventory. So should you sell on eBay? You have to decide that for yourself. What I really just recommend is, if you have to, just go back and rewatch this video and really just pay attention to everything I just told you. All this stuff I told you, you really need to ponder it like before you start selling. It'll help you, get your business up and running, and it'll let your business like run smoother once you do have it up and running. But just I don't know, guys. You guys just really need to just also just write goals down before you start eBay. That'll help you a lot. Like for example, you can say like how much you want to make, and then how you're gonna do that. You could put down like underneath it like how many times you plan on going thrifting, like how many items you want to find, and like how many hours a day you'll spend. Maybe like cleaning items, listing them. The list goes on and on. I'll make a video, like a future video about, making goals on eBay and how you should do that. But yeah, guys, I think that's going to do it for this video. Please just leave a like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my new videos. And also, you guys can leave like any questions or, comments you have for me below, and I'll be sure to answer you. And just remember to work in silence and that isolation is your friend. All right, I'll see you in my next video.